How is it in the cult? Is it nice?
It's warm, it's cozy.
Good. Now, yeah, there you go. There you go. So, we got. I want to ask you a couple more other questions, if you don't mind, about. And this is, you engage in something that I think we've discussed this briefly. That I lost several members of my family when I was a little bit younger than you, and I engage in a lot of magical thinking about where they were, and perhaps they weren't dead. And you talk about this all through this book. And it's one of the things that was so resonant to me, was the belief that, no, my mother is alive. She's out there someplace, and someday she will show up. That's a recurring theme throughout this. Did you have an image of your mind of where she was and what she was doing all this time? For those years, I mean.
Yeah, for many years, I had dreams. I was convinced that she was still alive. I mean, I was 12 years old. And
did you see her in the? Did you think you saw her places?
Only a handful of times, but I had to believe that she was still alive. I could not face the reality that she was gone.
Where did you imagine she was?
Hiding. Taking a break, plotting, planning, and then coming to get me and William to get us out of there, because it was unbearable for her.
Hiding, in some ways, I mean, hiding, I'm not going to accuse you and Megan of hiding, but removing yourself from the situation, this fantasy that you had of what your mother did is what you did. You removed yourself from the toxic situation.
Yeah. And I'm glad, by the way, I'm glad that it... not before trying to make it work.
Yes.
Believe me, we tried, and we're still trying. But I'm glad that that resonated for you, because as we know through our own mental health journey, there's power in sharing, right? Because then you realize you're not alone, and you realize you weren't crazy thinking that. So I really
hope... that is how that person is still alive. If you share your memories of that person, how you feel that person, that is how that person really, that is not magical thinking, and that person becomes alive.
True, but there's also that grief that so many of us, look, within society at large, we are not exactly encouraged to grieve. And I think that's a real problem.
It's seen as a weakness.
It's seen as weakness. But I, through this book, have been the most vulnerable I have ever been in my life. And I've never felt stronger.
You talk about the love of community in here, not in so many words, but certainly the community of your friends in, what's the Club H? Is that what it is?
Club H, yeah.
Club H, below one of the estates, in the Army, and you had to leave.
This was the cellar of my dad's house.
Yes.
Just so we're all clear.
Yeah, Club H. Exactly.
You're all invited.
Then you had to leave the most intimate community, which is your family. That must have been hard to leave for someone who wants community so much, to leave the most intimate community, which is your family.
Yes, and one of the hardest bits, which I realized pretty quickly, was the moment that I started doing therapy. It's like we started speaking a different language.
You and your family, that you had a different emotional vocabulary than they were sharing.
It just became very, very different. Yeah, they couldn't understand me, and I was doing my best to try and encourage them to healing. And everyone has their own journey, and I fully respect that. But within that institution, there is a mindset, and there's a lot of people that are hired and brought in that ultimately manage that mindset. And I think it's really, really damaging and dangerous. So, a large reason of why I've written a book is because I want this to stop with me. It makes no sense for me to be able to expose and uncover all of this practice, this toxic relationship between the palace and the press, if I know that someone else in my family is going to be the next target. Because if it's not Megan and I, it's going to be someone else.
When you were still in the family, were you aware of specific instances when this was happening with the complicity of the palace?
Yeah, it got to the point where every unnamed source, palace insider, senior palace source, everybody was quoted. And then at the bottom it would say, the palace declined to comment. It's like, right, but the whole article is them commenting. And even today they're doing the same thing. So I don't know what to say at this point, apart from you keep telling on yourselves.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm asking is that, you were inside the system, therefore you know how the system works.
Yes, which is also terrifying for those people.
You write a lot about your brother. You write about him with love.
Mm-hmm.
You call him Willie, but there is a different Willie